Wednesday. It's 7 o'clock. That means it's time for our Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. And this is the 90th episode of our Wednesday weekly workshops. It's just incredible for us to think about 90. We love it. We're going to have to plan something for 100. Going to have to do it. This is the first time you've been here for one of these. We're really glad you're here. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. we go live so you can ask questions about health from myself. My name is Drew Detzner. I'm the owner of 3D Wellness. It's a natural health clinic where we help people resolve health challenges safely and naturally. No drugs, no surgeries. I'm joined by the incomparable Two Boots Lori LeClaire.
Ah, here I am.
Wouldn't be the same without her. So what we do is we take questions for as long as there are questions. I always have one or two things I want to go over with you. I like to talk about what I've covered in clinic. But you can chat in the questions either on YouTube or on Instagram. A number of our clients like to email questions in ahead of time. Here's our email address. It's 3dnewberlin@gmail.com. And if you don't want to type things in or email us, you can just call us, even right now. Our phone number is 262-505-5012. We will take the call live on the air. We'll answer your question. We really want you to understand this stuff. Tonight, I want to talk about something that's come up with a number of clients throughout this week. So we saw some interesting things this week, but there was like a philosophical thing going on that I want to cover with everybody, okay? Some people go to natural dentists, and some of these natural dentists will show you a tooth chart that'll show you like the upper and the lower jaw. And it'll say, this tooth relates to your intestines. And they'll say, this tooth relates to your heart. Okay? And I had some clients say, like, how could that be? Like, if that's a real thing, why doesn't every dentist talk about it? Why doesn't every doctor out there talk about it? I said, that's a fair question. Because everybody on earth who had a root canal at this one should have intestinal issues, right? But we just don't see that's the case. All right, I hear you. Something I've said a lot of times throughout my career is that different organs relate to different emotions. Is that still on screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So throughout my career, I've said things to clients like, hey, you're having kidney issues. Are you dealing with fear stuff lately? You're having liver stuff. Are you dealing with anger lately? You have lung stuff. Are you dealing with grief? Oh, calm myself. Wait, I before E except after C, but that looked weird. Help me out, Lori.
I-E-F.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was right the first time. Thank you. Clients have then said to me, all right, Drew, if liver problems only come from anger, why don't more people have liver problems? If grief affects lungs, why isn't everybody at a funeral having an asthma attack? Okay, that kind of thing. Here's where the philosophy part comes in. I'm not sure if every tooth in your mouth relates to an organ elsewhere in your body. And I'm not certain that just because you have lung problems, you're going to have grief emotionally going on with you. But what I am totally 100% confident about, when I talk to clients about things like a tooth chart talking about organs or about the way emotions relate to organs, it's an icebreaker. It gets the conversation rolling. And often what happens is all of a sudden we go, hey, you know what that got me thinking? Can we check fill in the blank thing? So what I'd encourage you to do with all this natural stuff, there's plenty of it out there. When you hear somebody talk about an uncommon way of assessing or better understanding health, and it sounds a little funky, instead of trying to make it like the absolute truth, it's the only way, just consider it as something that's stimulating your brain to think about whatever health thing you have going on in a new way. I came up a bunch this week. I was in with Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
I was in with one of our clients. And I think we all know I like telling stories. If you've watched any of these, you know I like telling stories. Kind of like right now. And Lori especially knows it.
13 plus years of it.
Right? Quite a bit. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of this story with Teresa. And honestly, I went like, why am I telling her this story? And I got to the end of it, and she goes, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I just realized that I also have an issue with that. Could it be? And it got the conversation rolling. So with all this stuff, it doesn't have to be carved in stone. Just consider it as something that gets your brain going.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to point out, I'm wearing this very fun polo shirt. Logo on here is the old logo of a professional disc golfer who's a client of mine. His name is Ricky Wysocki. He's an incredible disc golfer. And it's the start of the disc golf season. So I'm very excited. So I had to show my support for Ricky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Two Boots. The questions rolling.
No questions have
No
rolled
questions
in.
yet. Fair enough.
Yeah.
You always have a question or two, though. We can count on you for that.
Well, let's see. What can you tell me about soursop?
Nothing.
What?
What is soursop?
You haven't heard of soursop?
I've not heard of soursop.
Oh, great. Maybe you should do your research this week. I'll ask next
Apparently,
week.
I'm going to be doing some reading. What is soursop?
Well, if you want me to look it up real quick, I will, because I don't have a clue either.
Oh.
I am asking on behalf of a family member.
Gotcha.
What is it? Known as, oh gosh, I can't even pronounce that. It's a fruit.
Yeah.
Is the fruit of Annona maricata and broadly flowering evergreen tree.
Wow.
What are the health benefits? Rich in vitamin C.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not making this very easy for me.
I'm going to have to do some reading.
Let's do some reading on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is interesting. I will just bring this up real quick. Different trees have different nutrients in them because the root system is pulling stuff out of the soil. So if you boil pine needles, for example, in water, you have a very pine-flavored tea that is also rich in vitamin C because pine trees pull a lot of vitamin C out of the soil. So I'm sure whatever tree that comes from, there's going to be some nutrient that it's particularly good at getting out of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and me both. Well, then I've got a question about, oh, this is one that intrigues me.
Yeah.
Seizures.
Ooh.
I understand there's different types of seizures.
Oh, yeah.
The only two I'm familiar with are epileptic.
Okay.
Or the ones caused due to stress or anxiety, I guess. Anxiety induced.
Sure.
Okay. Just want to know more about, like, do you
Sure.
help people with that?
Yeah, I've worked on seizures before. Let's talk about them a little bit. Okay, so like you were just mentioning, there's a wide variety, whole bunch of different types of seizures. There are ones like grand mal seizures, which are
Okay.
the big ones where you see a person fall down,
Oh.
or you see them flail, or have trouble controlling their body in some kind of grand motion.
Okay.
Then there's some kind of seizures that you don't even know the person's having one.
Mm.
So there's a huge range, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to act like I have the cure or that there's one cause for all of those, but I've worked on probably about 24 cases where the person was dealing with some form of seizures, and they have a couple of things in common that I just want to point out.
Oh, cool.
I think that would be good to go over.
Yeah.
When we do the hair tissue mineral analysis on these people, one of the things we see is toxic metals are always present, especially aluminum, and lead. Sorry, just to be clear. Al is aluminum, Pb is lead. That's from your periodic table of elements. If you don't remember high school chemistry, come hang out with us more often. We chat it up all the time, okay? On the hair tissue mineral analysis, we always see some toxic metals, most commonly these. Why do I think that's such a big deal? There's research that shows that aluminum and lead interfere with the functioning of the nervous system. So I'm going to put that on here. Okay. Here's the other big thing I see on the hair tissue mineral analysis. Manganese. Now, just for the record, that's manganese. That's not magnesium. I know how to spell both words. Manganese. This mineral has a lot to do with brain performance. Also has a lot to do with joint health. And what we most commonly see is a deficiency or low levels of it. Outside of the hair analysis, you kind of brought it up, stress regulation. How does the body respond to stress? Stress is always going to be a part of your life. What we need is just to know that the way that we respond to stress is healthy, that it's ideal, so that it doesn't cost us too much. Stress is like a collection agency asking you for money that you owe it. And depending on the way you react to the collection agency determines how much money you owe them. Okay? And if you've ever seen interactions like this, like in a store setting, where somebody's just as sweet as can be to an employee, and they get that free tote bag, and the next person in line is kind of a royal jerk, and they don't get the free tote bag, right? The way you respond to stress determines how much you have to give to stress. So stress regulation is a really big deal. For that, we're talking about adrenal health. And heart health. Okay. In terms of stress regulation, we want to gain tolerance for stress. There's a really, really tremendous book about this topic. I've trained staffs on this. So one of the things we do here, real quick side note, we're a nutrition clinic, but then we also train other clinicians here. We also train staffs of those clinicians. So whether it's here in our classroom or sometimes I go to another clinic to do these trainings, I really like to teach the staff about a particular book. I see Lori smiling already. She knows where I'm going with this. It's written by a guy named Jocko Willink. You can look him up whether you're watching us on YouTube or on Instagram. You can look him up later. Jocko Willink, and the book is called Extreme Ownership. Tremendous book. Whether you read the book or you do the audiobook, either way, it's a really good idea. One of the things he goes over is that, Jocko Willink is a former Navy SEAL instructor, has been deployed around the world for multiple missions. Some he tells you about, some he can't tell you about, one of those guys, okay? Something that comes up in there is when you're going through Navy SEAL training, this incredibly intense training, and it's absolutely full of stress. When people say, I'm ready to quit, the Navy has found that you're actually only 40% of the way to the point where you actually need to quit. So if, for example, if you did 4 push-ups and you said, I have absolutely no more push-ups that I can do, and you said that in the Navy, they'd say, oh, you feel like quitting after 4? Fantastic. You can do 6 more. Isn't that insane? Isn't that wild to think about? So in the Navy SEAL training, whether it's running while carrying one of their boats over their head or swimming, when they feel like quitting, they say you've reached 40% of your threshold. Go for it. So in terms of stress regulation, when we feel like giving in to stuff, when we feel like we can't give anymore, something that they go over in the book is a couple of things you can do to help ward off that point where you feel like you can't give anymore. And if you do reach that point, things you can do to say, hey, I'm only at 40%, I can make it further. That's a big deal. So on the topic of seizures, there's a lot of different kinds. And the clients that I've worked with in the past dealing with seizures, they have a few things in common. Aluminum and lead on their hair tissue mineral analysis. We know that causes nervous system stress. We also see that their manganese, which is a mineral for brain health and joint health, they have low levels. And everybody could use better stress regulation so we don't tax our adrenals or our heart as much.
Can I ask a quick question
Yeah.
on I know there's certain words we're not allowed to speak of.
Yeah, because we don't treat, we don't cure, we don't diagnose
Yeah.
because we're not medical doctors.
Correct. So let me just ask it this way: with
Yeah.
like epileptic, that
Yeah.
typically you get prescribed a medication.
Yeah.
Right. And there's restrictions. You can't drive or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that that they could benefit with nutrition to eliminate medication, or do you think medication is
very
is
good
the
question.
only route for that type of
Yeah.
seizure?
So what I would say is case by case basis. We'd absolutely have to check in with the prescribing physician to talk about that kind of thing. In my experience, I've had clients reduce their epileptic seizure medications while on a program with me. I have not seen anyone go off of them.
Okay. Well, reduction is
It's pretty cool.
pretty cool
right?
too.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I would be really curious if those clients, if I had a chance, like one of them I'm thinking of is Susan's husband, who is now deceased, not because of epilepsy. But I only had like 3 years to work with him. I would have been curious, like, what if I had 10 years to work with him? What if we had like really cleaned aluminum out of his system? Like, what if?
Because that does take a while.
Yeah, especially since we get so much exposure to that.
Yes.
Like, there's no getting away from it. It's 1/8 of the Earth's crust. We're always going to be exposed to it. So I'm curious. So I've seen reductions. I've never seen removal.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. Thank you.
We didn't get in any trouble.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything that we're not allowed to.
Well, we have a question rolling in here from Teresa.
Oh, great.
She apparently is out traveling. She wants to know,
Yeah.
is it safe to use an outhouse change in an outhouse multiple times on an outdoor trip if you have some immune challenges, including intestinal issues?
Very good question. So outhouses are pretty interesting. There's a lot of, that goes back to a lot of variety. You should be safe. We'll do a couple of things to make sure, just to help. So of course, if we're talking about outhouses, I'm going to write in brown. Seems fitting. All right. So we know that there is absolutely airborne stuff inside of there. Now, whether or not there's a greater concentration of dangerous things in there, we don't know. Depends on the outhouse. How good is the drainage? How full is it? That kind of stuff, okay? But here's what I'll say. Since we know there's some degree of airborne junk in there, no exerting yourself. Sounds like changing your clothes wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I wouldn't want you to run to the outhouse to change your clothes, because then you're probably breathing heavier and more likely to pull in something that is airborne.
Yep.
Okay? Then we want to do minimal contact with surfaces. Why? Because there's weird stuff floating around in there, and certainly some of it landed on surfaces, okay? Now, if you're changing clothes, you're probably going to have to set things down. If you can get a barrier between surfaces in there and your clothing, that would be great. Maybe that's a gallon-sized Ziploc baggie. Maybe that's a grocery bag that's empty, something like that. So there's some barrier just so that funky stuff isn't on your clothes. And then last but not least, wash your hands afterwards. I can't tell you how often people touch something that is pathogenic or that isn't good for them, a bad bacteria, a bad germ, okay? And it's on their hands, and because they didn't wash their hands and knock that thing off of it, they go and then they wipe their eye, and all of a sudden, boom, now it's in their eye. Or they go to eat something, and now it's in their body, okay? So inside an outhouse, there's airborne stuff, so no heavy breathing, no exertion. Get minimal contact with the surfaces, and if you get a barrier you can put in place, that's great. And then wash your hands after. And even people with immune challenges in their gut should be just fine. Yeah.
Very good.
Good question. This is what we mean by ask Drew anything. We're talking about outhouses, people, okay? Ask anything. All right, what else we got?
All right. Nothing new has rolled in since that last question.
Okay. We got a bunch of fun stuff. The Have You Heard the Word About MediHerb series has launched on our YouTube channel. I think there's 7 or 8 videos already posted. So you can check that out. The idea with the Have You Heard the Word About MediHerb is that you can learn about the entire herbal side of the standard process supplement line. Each video is about a minute long, so it's really easy to learn about it. And a lot of the herbs that are in their products are ones that are commonly used, like ashwagandha or turmeric, boswellia, these very commonplace herbs. And you can learn about them. It's not just me reading out of a textbook. I'm talking about clinical experience with those herbs and those products specifically. There was something, the view count on those, I think 5 or 6 of them are released already. The total view count is close to 1,000.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to me.
Yeah.
One of them had more than 200 views when we looked at it earlier. It's like 5 days old. I love that. No, it's not the biggest channel on YouTube. It's still heartwarming to see that many views rolling in.
Yeah.
This.
Oh, yeah.
Can you grab a Spanish black radish,
Sure
please?
can.
Thank you. All right, this is an empty tub of SP Power Mix. And real quick, if you don't know SP Power Mix, it's worth going over. So this is a greens powder. It contains 10 things grown at the standard process farm, which if you've watched these live streams before, you know that that farm has some of the best soil on earth in terms of nutrient density, nutrient quality. They take care of the soil. They rotate the crops. They rest the soil. They just crush it. Okay. So this product has a bunch of greens in it. And then grown at the standard process farm is the kale, the alfalfa, the barley greens, the Brussels sprouts, the beet, the buckwheat, the kidney beans, the pea vine, and the turnip greens. Incredible. Is that 10? There's 9. I swear there were 10 in here. Whatever. A lot of people struggle to get their daily greens in. There are quite a few greens products on the market right now. There's AG1, which is Athletic Greens 1. It's a product I used to use a lot of called Super Fuel. These products are pretty good. But there is nothing grown at the standard process farm in either of those products, which is part of what makes this one so special. You just can't beat the soil.
And it's yummy.
Yeah. So people trying to get greens in, if you want a pretty yummy way, take a scoop of this a day. You can take it on its own. You can mix it with a protein shake, however you like to do it. Look at the size of this container. Here's the biggest bottle of Spanish black radish currently available. We are filling up this container on Monday. And all through the month of March, whenever you come in for a consult with us or to make a supplement purchase, you get to fill out a raffle ticket guessing how many Spanish black radish I got to fit in this container. Inside of that container, okay? Trying to make it as easy as possible for them. At the end of the month, we're gonna see who guessed correctly. Is it April 2nd?
April 2nd.
April 2nd is the Wednesday weekly workshop, the first one in April. We will announce all winners. We will announce the total amount of Spanish black radish tablets we got to fit in the SP Power Mix tub. The reason we're doing this is this bottle is wonderful and adorable, but we need a bigger bottle of Spanish black radish. We need at least a 180. I'd love to see a 270. I'll be content if we start with a 180.
Yes.
So get in here for a consult, get in here to order some supplements, to buy some supplements. If you order supplements from us online, shoot us an email and let us know you have done so. We will fill out a raffle ticket on your behalf. Okay? I think it's gonna be a lot. What do you have any like preliminary?
No, I haven't thought about it. I haven't. But I didn't even know if employees are eligible.
Anybody who guesses correctly gets a free bottle of Spanish black radish. I think we're gonna fit 500 in here. I bet it's gonna be that much.
I wouldn't even give any clues. Gosh darn it.
We'll see. We'll see. We're excited though.
Do you want to answer one more question, Drew?
Oh yeah.
Teresa has another one.
Yeah.
How do you feel about hyperbaric oxygen therapy in conjunction with using supplements?
Oh, sure. Let's talk about it. All right. Let's make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here. Wow.
Oops.
Hello. I'm already thinking about the next thing I'm going to say instead of the word I'm writing. Hyperbaric.
Yes.
All right.
Oxygen therapy.
All right. Hyper meaning more than usual. Okay. Baric meaning barometric pressure. So the idea here is, let's say this is your body, and if it is your body, you're very unhealthy. You need to get in here right away. You should not be a rectangle. Okay. You go into a chamber. It's a hyperbaric chamber, which means they are giving you more than usual barometric pressure in an effort to get oxygen that is floating around in the air naturally and to drive it into the body. The goal being, the desired outcome is that we are increasing blood oxygenation and an increase oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So this comes up for a bunch of different reasons. It is most popular among athletes. Remember years ago, a bunch of Tour de France athletes got popular because they were using hyperbaric therapy to increase their oxygenation levels. Because one of the biggest deals in the Tour de France bicycle race is if you can just sustain yourself long enough to actually complete it. It's grueling. It's just an absolutely grueling race. People have begun to use it to support different health challenges, understanding that oxygen is a natural antiviral, antifungal, antipathogenic bacteria. Oxygen on its own has all sorts of benefits. When we use a hyperbaric chamber, we can drive oxygen into the body to support its functioning. Okay? I think it works great with supplements. I think there's no issue with that. A lot of people can't afford hyperbaric chamber therapy, so I want you to know about another option. Something that will also increase blood oxygenation or the carrying capacity of your blood to carry oxygen. And that is what is inside our dear friend Cataplex E2. Okay? Cataplex E2 does the stuff that I just wrote right up here. It's something that I use for altitude sickness with clients. So the next time you're going to Colorado for a vacation, or you're going to hike a volcano in Costa Rica or something like that, start my clients on Cataplex E2 a few weeks before they go on the trip to the elevation, and they don't get elevation sickness. If you've ever had that, you know you want to avoid it. It can derail a vacation, it can keep you off the slopes. Cataplex E2 is technically a vitamin E supplement, but it is a very unique vitamin E supplement. It's not just for moisturizing your skin and appearing younger. It'll help your blood carry more oxygen around. So it'll increase physical performance when your oxygen levels go up in your blood, and it'll help you prevent things like altitude sickness. It's also something I use regularly when anybody reports any kind of chest pain. Now, if somebody comes in and says they have chest pain, I'm talking to them about when are they seeing their doctor in the immediate future. And I am also giving them something like Cataplex E2 because I know that the nutrients in there help us deal with the technical term angina pectoris, or chest pain. Okay. Really wonderful thing, safe to use long term, not banned by any World Athletic Council, not banned by the International Olympic Committee. Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
All right, did other questions roll in?
No other questions.
All right, you wonderful humans. We stay here till there's no more questions. Looks like we're there. So thank you for watching this, whether it was live or whether it's after the fact. Please keep in mind, there are so many ways to get a hold of us. You can call us, you can message us, you can email us. All of those things work great. Love to talk to you. And then get in here for a consult or for a purchase. Or if you make an online purchase through our online store, let us know that you did so that we can enter you into seeing how many Spanish black radish fit in this big old tub. And then if you guess right, you get a free bottle of Spanish black radish.
Woo.
Right. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.